up a little bit.
Here, it goes. Actually, that's like that. Or maybe it goes the other way. Oh,
there we
see?
go.
We're just about
Need
right.
to come in a little bit.
You come my way. We're going to go with that. This is Inside Look. I'm Jeff Lyons with John Carl, history expert, Wrights High School faculty. Feel the history come alive. Old friend, West Sider. Welcome to Inside Look. And flood, I'm going to say survivor. Maybe that's a little strong, but flood experiencer here from the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks. We've nothing that we haven't experienced in the past growing up down there, but it's been a full couple of weeks. I told my students last Thursday was my first day back, and I was able to drive out, and I told them it'd probably take me maybe a week to kind of get back to normal. So today's about the first day I really felt normal at school.
So just to give some context here, John, you lived in Union Township. Did you grow up in Union Township? I knew you grew up down there. Then you moved away for a while into the big city. Now you're back down in the middle of it in Union Township there, close to Dogtown. And so you've got stories. Of course, you've written the book literally and figuratively on history in Union Township. But this is an area that has experienced floods, pretty much every year. This one was a little different, though, wasn't it? This one in 2025.
Yeah, this one was different, and it's been a while. So I grew up in Union Township. I lived there and my dad and I, when I got out of college, he got injured, and I stayed a couple years after I got out of college and helped him. Went to town, moved to Wrights Hill. Yeah. So got to high ground, and then got married, and he got married in 2011, which was a big river year. And
it was. That was, I think, that was the one
biggest,
that was being compared to this most recent flood. Yeah.
And at our house where I grew up, 11 was the bigger river than 97 and this past one, which people don't understand, but we're kind of closer to Mount Vernon, so the water was real high in Mount Vernon, so it held water back on us at our part of Union Township. But anyway, in 11, I was trying to get my wife to we need to move back down to the bottoms. It's great. It's beautiful. It's peaceful. And then we got that river, and she's like, I don't know. So a couple years ago, my dad died. My stepmom was getting remarried. She was going to sell the old home place, and it had been just long enough that my wife had forgotten what the river can do. So I got her to say yes. We've been down there a couple of years, and now I think I've got her locked in.
Well, now I've done a little research, John, and what you told me, while factually true, spiritually there was a little more to it. You promised her she could raise her bunnies down there, didn't you? Well, that was the hook, that she could have rabbits down there.
Yeah, the hook was, she said, if we move to the country, I want to be able to raise rabbits. I said, I don't care. I just want to get back to Union Township. So I'll add on to the back of the pole barn and make you a bunny room. So we've got a bunny room, and then they were hot in the winter, or in the summer, so I had to put in a window unit. So we've got an air-conditioned bunny room. So yes,
man,
yeah.
What's your property assessment these days for Union Township?
It's funny. They saw the addition that I put on the back of the pole barn, and I got a new assessment.
Assessed. That's right. Well, the rabbits can pay. What do you do with rabbits anyway?
She sells them. I thought when she said she wanted to raise rabbits, I thought meat rabbits.
Well, I did too. I didn't want to ask her.
I said, I like rabbit. That'll be good. I love a rabbit. And she goes, no, not to eat. And I said, well, what are you going to do with them? And she goes, for pets. And I'm like, there's not that big of a demand for pet rabbits. Well, evidently there is.
Turns out.
So I've been like, it was funny. We had about 15 baby rabbits that were going to be, they turned 8 weeks old when the river was up. Right. So people had deposits down, and they wanted to come pick them up, and people are texting, and they're coming from like Indianapolis and Louisville
to get a rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't
are
get
these special rabbits? I mean, other than the fact they were born and bred in Union Township,
and they're really tame, and I think that's the thing. Some rabbit breeders breed them, and don't. These rabbits eat really well. I'll try to make a salad. My wife's like, oh, no, that lettuce is for the rabbits. You can have that over there. And I'm like, what's wrong with this? Well, it's a few days old. I'm like, okay.
Oh, yeah, the rabbits do want fresh. I mean, these are discerning rabbits.
So I guess that's what's different about them. But people were texting and saying, well, we'll come pick ours up early. We're like, no, you really don't understand. Unless you come in a boat, you can't get to the house.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people maybe don't understand. If our listeners and viewers that aren't familiar with Union Township, Vanderburgh County is shaped kind of like a piece out of a jigsaw puzzle. And there's a peninsula on the southern edge below Evansville, where the Ohio River forms the outer boundary of it. On one side would be Henderson, downtown Henderson, where the train bridge goes across, and then it loops all the way around and comes up to Diamond Island, which would be the other end. And it's a low, but it's very fertile, rich soil. It's been farmed for generations, as you know. And but it takes a special breed of person to live down there and put up with that. So, and you chose it. You went back to it.
Back.
And you often post pictures on your social, you know, Union Township magic.
That's
and I thought, this guy must be on the Union Township Chamber of Commerce or something.
Right.
So talk about the culture down there. All your neighbors, of course, have to put up with flooding and deal with it too. So who's like the official river watcher? I guess everybody looks at it now, right?
Well, yeah, and it's, you know, having it on your phone, you can pull it up and see what the river's going to do. We all text each other when it, you know, have you seen the forecast?
Yeah.
When they jumped the forecast 2 feet from 46.6 to 48.5 on that Monday, it was a panic.
My heart skipped a beat too, and then they had, the Weather Service had upped that forecast, and then in the notes to us, like 5 or 6 paragraphs down, it was like, oh, by the way, this will be the highest since 1937. I'm like, that's the headline, you know. And so I came running out to the studio. Turned out we didn't quite get it. We fell a little short, which is fine. But so then what's the process? I mean, people are accustomed to flooding, but still you got to move stuff up. You got to bring equipment in and all that. So how does that take place?
Well, everybody kind of knows what they need to worry about. We have a river camp. That was the concession before we moved down there. We got a river camp, and my wife thought that would kind of placate me. Okay, well, we'll get a river camp. We can go to Union Township, and it's great, and we love it, and great neighbors, and so I know that 43 feet at Evansville is going to put it close to the floor of the river camp. So, and 42.5 makes it hard to get there. So if they're predicting 42.5, 42.2, we start picking stuff up and we get it out of the basement just to get ready. The basement's concrete floor, concrete block, and so it's, you know, it's kind of made to have river mud in it. And I told we've got a new family that just moved in. This is our first river. So when the February river was coming, they were saying, well, we'll be okay. And I'm like, well, you got to understand, once you can't get out, you're stuck.
Right.
And if they jump the forecast, you got to be ready. So once the road's closed, you need to be ready just in case. So that's sort of the mindset. You live down there, you kind of get used to, okay, 43, I'll be okay if we get stuff upstairs. 48.5. I was getting sandbags. I'm thinking that we can sandbag around the windows to try to slow it down going into the basement, and maybe we can keep a pump going. So everybody kind of knows their level, and you know, you can either put stuff up or you can move it out. You want to get your vehicles out just in case. Farmers, that day they jumped at 2 feet. It was like it was like a parade, farm equipment parade going up the road, getting stuff to higher ground.
Getting it, and down there it doesn't take too far to go to get to maybe just a couple 3 feet above wherever the water's going to be, you know, and you always will see cars parked down there and everything. So did you stay with your house the entire time? You slept there every night?
We slept there every night. We couldn't leave the rabbits. See, we got
right,
the rabbits.
Right. We forgot about the rabbits.
We've got livestock. So it was over knee deep in the bunny barn, in the bunny room at the back of the barn.
The bunnies are up on stilts.
So we moved them up. So we emptied the bottom cages and had them in the top cages. The babies, all the ones that had deposits on them, that were like, we got to make sure these are safe.
The money rabbits.
The money rabbits. We put those in the pool house.
Yeah.
So we put a tarp down and we put cages in our pool house. And so we were there the whole time. I missed either 4 or 5 days of school. Coach now for Westsiders, I don't know Coach now. He still subs. He's about 80.
I was going to say, he's getting up there.
Yeah, he's 80 years old, and he subs for a few people, but that makes him really flexible. So he said, whenever you need me, I'll be there. So he was there for me, and on the Monday, after it crested, we still had enough water that I could take a boat and get out. So I boated from the house to where I had my truck parked and was able to drive to school.
Right. And you and a buddy were going to breakfast in a boat, and you rescued a guy too,
Yeah,
right? How'd
yeah.
that come about?
Well, right place, right time. The guy that let me borrow his boat, Kevin Cummings, friend of mine, brought the boat down, and we were going to run down and check his parents' camp. They've got a camp way down by Henderson Island. And so we were going to check my camp and see how much water was in it and go check his and make sure, if there's something we could do it. And on the way past my camp, that string of camps, we saw a boat in the trees, which was unusual because there was nobody out.
Right.
It was Saturday morning. And he said, that's a boat, isn't it? And I said, yeah. And I said, I think the motor's running. And as we got closer, I saw somebody move, and I said, I think they must be hung up. And I thought he was reaching over the back trying to pull something loose off the motor since it was still idling. We got there, he's in the water, and he's hanging on the side of the boat, and like just his face
This is
was
cold
out.
water too.
Yeah, it was like 48 degrees,
Yeah.
50 degrees. And he's got his leg hooked over the side, and he's holding onto the side of the boat, and he is exhausted. There's no way he's getting back in that boat. And as it worked out, we pulled up, and it was one of my neighbors down there. And
Yeah.
so I kind of knew him, not real close, but he's one of those
You
neighbors.
know him a lot better now.
Oh yeah. My buddy said, because when we left, I told Kevin, I said, man, he's always been a good neighbor. He's like a wave every time you see him in the garden guy. He said, I bet he'll be a better neighbor now.
Yeah.
But we just got lucky. He
Yeah.
got lucky. We just went up to him and told him we were there, we were going to help him, and we had to convince him to let go of the tree limb in the boat that he was holding on to. He was just like, his hands were locked on it. We pulled him in, got him in his house, got him warmed up. So he's doing great. I went and checked on him Saturday. It's the first time I'd seen him. I'd called every day to kind of check because he's 79, and I was worried it might turn into pneumonia.
Sure.
So, but no, he's doing good, and he's like, whew. He was thanking me Saturday, and I said, it wasn't any big deal. And he goes, well, it was a big deal to me. I go,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
sure.
I said, you did all the hard work. You had to hang on until we got there.
Right. So when you're
pulled you
driving
in.
a boat around the flooded Union Township, do you just basically follow the roads, or do you cut across fields, or how? That would be dangerous, wouldn't it?
It is.
Because you don't know what's out there.
It's tricky. And I grew up down there, and I've been in the backwater, but it's been long enough that you spend a lot of time trying to remember where the ridge is
Right.
and where the corner posts are. The corner posts are the tricky ones because, there'll be nothing, and then at the corner of a piece of property, there'll be like a 5-foot tall metal post filled with concrete.
Right.
And, you don't want to hit those because that's bad.
Yeah. Then you'd be hanging on
Yeah.
to something down there.
So you just sort of follow the ditch lines, and when the water gets high enough and you can get across the ridge, then you go, but you kind of slow down to make sure you
So
don't.
when you're sleeping down there during the flood, are you listening to the river lap at your backyard? And I mean, how do you sleep? What if the forecast was wrong? What if, what if?
Well, I will tell you, and the main reason I wanted to stay with the house is in the past, we'll get some seepage into the basement. It'll come, we've got a floor drain that goes, I guess, down into the sand. I'm
Right.
not sure. But sometimes in 97 and 11, it seeped up through there. So then you have to run a pump.
Sure.
And it would be slow. You can run a pump every couple hours.
But still, if you didn't keep up with it, then
Right.
you're in trouble.
So I didn't sleep very well, and I'd be up, and I'd go and I'd look down the basement. No water. Oh,
Yeah.
phew.
So-
And we got lucky. We had no water in the basement. It's in the swimming. It's over the top of the swimming pool and in the barn, but the basement stayed dry.
Yeah,
so that
and
was,
your river camp, different story. So how many inches of muck did you have in there? That
we had about 4 inches of mud. It was probably about 5.5 foot deep in the basement. So it blew the door in. But luckily the door got caught in the basement. So all I have to do is reframe the door.
Okay.
But our windows didn't get blown out. I'd boarded them up because I wanted to try to
Well,
protect
you've
them.
learned all these lessons.
That's right.
If you study your history, then you're
Right,
not doomed to
right.
repeat it. So how did the history thing take hold for you? Was it being in Union Township and having that? I mean, you have taken me on a tour down there, and of course it began with Indian mounds with
Right.
Native American
Right.
sites down there, and then later there were schools,
Mm-hmm.
and you could rattle off which family had whatever. So it was really like a whole culture unto itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, people ask me, a lot of times people, especially being a teacher, they want to know who's that teacher that made you love history. And I always say, I don't know, I didn't have one.
Right.
I liked all my history teachers,
Yeah.
the good ones, the bad ones. I liked them because I liked history. I think it probably goes back to the Indian mounds and I remember as a kid, I was always fascinated when we'd go out in the fields and find arrowheads, and the idea that, you're picking up a stone tool that hasn't been touched for 2,000 years, and who was here and what was their story. And then old buildings, old houses, old barns. God, I used to love to go and explore and I worked for different farmers, and they'd always have, there was always an old barn that had a wagon or something in it we had to go get. And so while we're in there, I'm like, well, what's up there? And I don't know. Go take a look. So the buildings and the foundations and, in Union Township and they used to, when a lot of people lived down there, they'd build a mound to build the house and the barn on to stay out of the water. And sadly, most of those are gone. But even when I was in college, I went around and took pictures of all of the buildings that were in the lower bottoms because I knew they would be gone in 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I think being down there, and I had a couple old farmers that I worked with that were always telling old stories, and the picture of the mule hanging in the tree from the 37 flood.
Right.
Bud Winter said, when I was in front of Herb Banfield's house, and it was right over here on Deucener Road, and so hearing those stories from those old guys, I think, I don't know.
And I'm a little bit older than you, but I grew up hearing nothing but stories about the 1937 flood. My family was in Howell, which is right across the railroad, but close to Union Township. And you could not really conceive what that was like. As a kid, I just assumed everything was underwater. It wasn't. It came in through basements and things like that. But even when I began here, we went down, I think it was during the 97 flood, and talked to people who had lived there. One guy was Jack Sibaking, who was there in 1937, had a nail driven into his house, and everybody had some kind of mark. So what's your mark on your house?
Well, so, and I always tell people, every old building in all those old timers, and I'm good friends with Jack, and that's just up the road from our house. They all had that mark, and they could all say, well, 37 flood was right here. We mark on the corner of the garage, and so that's how I can tell you with 100% certainty where the water was in 97, where it was in 2011, where it was in 18, and now where it was in 2025. So on the front corner of the garage, we've got to keep a mark. And then in the river camp, since we bought our river camp, we've had water in it 4 times now, and usually about like 8-10 inches, which is an hour and a half cleanup.
Yeah.
But I've marked each one of those too. Just and when you mark it, and not all the rivers are a little different depending on what Mount Vernon is and what Evansville is. 46.6 is going to be. It'll give you an idea of where it's going to be, but you don't know exactly where it's going to be. So that's still, we still do that.
So, in 1937, just to give the historical context, because obviously when I came on TV, and I'm sure many other people did too, and said, "Oh well, this will be the highest crest since 1937." A lot of people heard that as 1937, and so they're thinking 54 feet or 53, whatever it was, 7. And, we had to make sure to make that very clear that 1937 was, I believe, a 500 or 1,000-year flood. It depends on your sourcing. And that, with the levee system and everything today, it probably would not be as catastrophic, I'm guessing. What do you think? I mean, you of course studied the levees and all that.
I hope. Dr. McLeod, James McLeod at UE, his daughter, Ailey, just did her undergrad thesis at Columbia, and she did it on the history of flood control, the New Deal, and how the 37 flood kind of changed the federal government's approach to flood control. And she uses it. It's Evansville. It's based on Evansville. So it's really cool that, she's doing her thesis at Columbia talking about Evansville. Yeah. But I'm reading it now and I'm just fascinated. And I think the federal government would like to tell you, that wouldn't happen again. As somebody that's lived through some floods, and I would hope they're right.
Yeah.
But
There are
I
no
don't know.
guarantees, and that
the
ri-
water's got to go somewhere.
That's right. And the
And
river
what-
moves in mysterious ways sometimes.
Well, and like this year, we had so much rain all through the Ohio River Basin that they couldn't. A lot of times, and I understand a lot of times they'll either hold water back so they can like let the water down below drain out,
Sure.
or they'll drain water out faster, and they control the level by either letting it run or holding it back. Well, when there's a whole bunch of water from Cairo to Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
there's no place to hold it back.
That's right. Everybody's stuck. And that's what, of course, happened in 1937.
Yeah.
I think there was, it was more than a foot of rain, but it was over the entire watershed I think it was in January. And, there was, and of course, no levee back
Right,
then. So it
right.
came up and out and everything else.
Yeah. And people were telling me, "Oh, I heard this river is going to be as bad as 37." I'm like, "No, do not say that. Don't even tempt fate."
Don't think about that. So when you teach your students about history and you have this Feel the History Come Alive where they do documentaries and they go out and they research different things, where do the ideas come from?
For the topics.
Yeah,
that
do you
they-
say, hey, you might want to look into, XYZ, or do they find this stuff on their own?
Oh, well, yeah, a little bit of both. In the early days, we've made probably 170 videos now.
Yeah.
So we've been doing it since 2006. So stories are become a little harder to come by, or you have to do a little more nuanced story.
Yeah.
In the early days, we'd go to Willard Library and I'd just turn them loose and they'd start looking through pictures and stuff. And we did a piece on the ice gorge in 36.
Right.
That first year, and the kids found some pictures of the big chunks of ice in the river, and they're like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, that's a 36 ice gorge." And they said the river froze, and I'm like, "Well, not like an ice rink. It was like a big jumble of block. It was like a log jam of a dirty brown ice." And so they did oh, that's cool. So they did that. We did the 37 flood, and we actually interviewed Mary Ruth Oakley, and she lived in Howell at that time. So the kids come up with topics, and then if in more recent years, I try to talk to them about, like, what are you interested in, and find a topic that is something that you'll have a good time interviewing and researching and finding people to interview. So it has become more difficult, and but I try to, I let the kids, I tell them, go where the history takes you.
Were you the kid rooting around the library on a rainy day, looking through the old? And back, I think it was still that way. Maybe when you were of that age. I mean, I would have been in high school, early college. I think we're about 10 years apart.
Yeah.
And you could go down and just look at the newspaper. There was like a clipping file.
Right.
And so let's say you wanted to read about the Coliseum downtown, which I was interested in. They just hand you this thing, and there were all these documents and things that couldn't be replaced. And then there was microfilm, where you put the thing on and you could read. And I loved reading old papers. It's a shame, that, that the print element of the newspaper is no more, because I'm wondering what will people look back at to do their research in 50 years?
I exactly. I worry about that because, yes. To answer your question, I was that kid. Dad would take me, in the winter, especially on a Sunday, or what do you want to do? I was like, let's go to Willard Library, and he'd take me to Willard. And I was more microfilm.
Yeah.
But I'd put the reels in there, and I'd look stuff up, and I tell the kids at school, I've always been this cool. I've been into history my whole life.
So if you could go back to, and I'm going to make you pick a year.
Okay.
We'll make it a 20. Well, we won't make it. I'll just make it a year. What year would you want to come back and just be an observer? Knowing you could get back to Union Township with the push of a button.
Oh, in Union Township?
Or
in
anywhere.
Evansville?
Anywhere in
well,
Evansville.
I always say I would love to be able to go back to like 1943 or 44 Evansville and just walk down Franklin Street and see what was going on. Evansville, the World War II in Evansville, it had to be fascinating, just the people coming to town, the hustle and bustle, and the factories, and I mean, there's a war going on, and people are suffering all kinds of incredible loss, but at the same time, there's this energy. I would love to be able to just take a look in the window and see that.
Talk to people and mill about.
Mill about. And
I'm always curious about the 50s. My dad graduated from Wrights High School in 1956, and I thought that'd be cool to go back to and just see what that was like. And having read now a little bit more, James McLeod wrote a book called Lost Evansville,
yeah.
which really opened my eyes because, the stories I heard about the 50s were far different from
Right,
what he
right.
researched. And, and so we kind of lived in separate worlds in town, depending on where you lived. And it would be interesting having that knowledge, then to go back and look around, and see what that was like back then. So the 40s for you, the war years.
War years in Evansville, just because of how transformative it was for the city.
Yeah.
And if you're talking Union Township, I'd like to go back to the late, I'd like to go back to Dogtown in the 1890s when it was like a saloon and the post office was there, and I just want to go around the neighborhood and see what houses were there that were gone before I could even remember.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm glad you got through the flood.
Yeah,
I'm glad
well,
you
thank
had
you.
a little context on 1937 for us. And we'll have to have you back because I know you've got a ton of other historical things that you can go on at length. Your wife told me, I saw her yesterday. I had a presentation at I think she works at Reckitt,
Reckitt.
and on weather. And the funny thing was we were talking about history and how you were just absolutely steeped in it, and so I said, oh yeah, I mentioned James McLeod, and she just described that entire group. Well, he hangs around with those people, So I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing,
well, yeah.
but it is funny that there's a certain ilk, that they're just as into that sort
Well,
of
she
stuff.
gets drugged to some of those the
Historical
Fiddick
Society,
lecture
yeah.
and historical society banquets and stuff, and she plays along. She's
Yeah.
great. But my students will sometimes, does your wife love history? And I'm like, no, and they're like, well, what do you talk about? I'm like, oh, we do other stuff. She likes
We talk about rabbits.
Yeah, we eat rabbits and going. She likes national parks, and we
Okay.
spend time on the river, and
That's
but
good.
I said she tolerates history. She plays along.
Okay, that's good. Well, we all do in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
Yeah,
playing along
thanks
here
for-
on Inside Look. I
thanks for having
appreciate
me.
it. John Carl, history, you're not a buff. You're a history expert, wouldn't you
Oh, I
say?
don't know. I
I'd
don't
say
say
you're an
expert,
expert
but-
and rights faculty and Feel the History Come Alive teacher. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeff Lyons. This has been Inside Look. You can listen to Inside Look wherever you get your podcast, or you can watch Inside Look on the 14 News YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.